From the pandemic to protests against vaccine mandates and now the Russian invasion of Ukraine, it's a lot to process for families around the world. Educator Wilcox is with us for some tips on how to talk to our children about these big events and why that conversation is so important. Parents might feel that they want to protect their children from these big, serious events. Why do you say they shouldn't?
Look, the chances are that your school-aged children are going to hear about some of these big events at school from other students. So if you don't take the time to give your children the correct information, they may be listening to things that are just not true. And this can create more fear and worry for them. And some children may even go as far as search for information on the internet. And this can open up a whole lot of misinformation that can scare them even more. So it's much better for you to sit down and talk things through with your child in a way that is developmentally appropriate and allows them to ask questions that they may have.
How do we start this conversation with our kids about this stuff?
Now, sometimes children find it really difficult to articulate what they're worried about. So a really good technique that I find is get a piece of paper, have children draw a ladder on it. And this ladder has 10 rungs. You label the rungs 1 to 10 with 10 on the top. And you ask your child to tell you what their biggest worry right now is. And that goes at number 10. You then say to them, write down all the other worries you have, with number 1 being the smallest. Once they've done that, you sit down and talk through each worry one by one with them so they understand exactly how much energy they should actually be spending on each of these worries. And most of the time they'll realise that they're not something they really have to stress and worry about.
What is the main thing that we want our kids to know about this topsy-turvy world right now?
Yeah, there's a lot happening. And I think if I break it down into the 3 top ones, with the war, reassure children that they're safe from danger and that there are many good people doing what they can to support the people of Ukraine. With the pandemic, remind children that there are lots of amazing scientists and doctors working on making a difference to this virus, and that there are millions of people around the world who have recovered well from this virus. So we also want children to know that things will slowly get back to normal. And finally, when it comes to the cost of living, your children need to know that this is not their problem. This is an adult problem. And while you may have to cut back on things and mum or dad may not have as much money to spend on the things they're used to, they are going to be okay.
Di, with regards to COVID, we've had a message from a viewer, Kerry Lee James. Her daughter has just finished 7 days isolation as a close contact before straight away being deemed a close contact again.
No.
She says this government's grounding healthy kids week after week. How could Kerry Lee explain this to her daughter?
This is really tough, especially for the kids, because routine and seeing their friends are really important. So I agree, very tough. But what we need to explain to our children is that all of us are having to abide by rules to keep as many people safe as possible. Now, over time, things will return to normal, but for now, all of us just have to work together to help get over this coronavirus. And when children understand we're working together and it's for the greater good, they feel like they're playing a part in making a difference.
Thanks for the chat, Di Wilcox.
Thank you for having me.